We do a 1K full every week. We do a 2K full every week. What's that good for? Why? Why? Well, during the week we only do 90 minutes maximum watts. Okay, good. Okay. And then you do 2K in the weekend. Why? You didn't prepare for it. If you don't prepare for a 2K, why would you test a 2K? This is like I ask you to study French for 4 weeks. And then at the end of 4 weeks, I tell you, surprise, surprise, the exam is going to be in Spanish. And then I say, you didn't perform in Spanish. What's wrong with you?
Okay. There's not much time to make a video. But
I want to do it anyway. Because there's something that I realized is a problem with many. A lot of athletes do this. So right now it's December 1st today, and this is usually the time where a lot of things start to go wrong. So winter season is just about started, and there is mainly earth training, and most athletes simply don't know what to focus on, and if they know, they don't know how to focus on that. So most athletes do what they've always done, or if you're a masters athlete and you're a comeback athlete, you do what you did when you were junior or under 23 athlete, but it somehow doesn't work anymore because you work in a job and there's not the same amount of time, and somehow you don't have the same basis of training you can draw from. So somehow you just can't handle the same volumes, the same intensities. Still, if you want to do something, and then you get this ERG test coming up in your club and you want to join, there's a lot of confusion. Now, in order to solve this, and this is my key job, I do coach people remotely, and this is what I know about the problems you guys have. The first thing you gotta do is set a clear goal. Where do you want to have your main peak of season within the next 12 months? And there's only one. There's not two, there's not three. There's only one main peak of season. And this is the event you train for. You can do more races, but it's got to fit the schedule and use it as a preparation, use it as a training. The second thing is, after you determine your main peak of season, everything that comes before this is not priority A anymore. It can be priority B, which is still very high, but it's not priority A. Now, is this recording? Yeah, it is recording. I think it's a bit too loud. Let me turn down the volume a bit. Okay. And then you have a lot less pressure. The question is, but if a goal is so far away, let's say now is December and your main peak of season is, let's say, the qualification for the national team in April, or the Olympic qualification regatta, or the World Masters regatta. And then there's plenty of options. What do you do until then, and how should you structure this? Now, what works the best in my humble experience, and what I always used when I was still active athlete, and what I do with all the athletes I coach, and it works very, very well, is that we build up, gradually build up. So the farther away you are from your main peak of season, the more endurance you do. Endurance in terms of low basis endurance. However, don't make the mistake only to do one intensity. And now all my athletes know that, you guys know that, we have a lot of variability in there. I don't know, there are not many sections that are longer than 10-15 minutes. But we always stay in these low aerobic zones. And then we gradually move up. So the closer we come towards peak of season, the more intensities we do, which means gradually move up 3, 4, 5 millimole, which is close to anaerobic threshold, and above. There's a good reason why we do this. A rowing race is something you cannot do by nature. It is not sprint, it is not endurance. And as this is the case, it doesn't really matter if you're talented or not, or if you're explosive type athlete or endurance type athlete. You have to have both anyway. So we have to prepare you that you can actually handle a load that the body naturally cannot handle, which is a 1K race, a 2K race, and a 5K race. All of that is not sprinting and not classic endurance. Endurance would be 1 hour, 1.5, 3 hours, long stuff. This is where your muscle mainly draws from, fat as the main transformation source of energy to generate ATP in the muscles. And ATP is the only element the muscle can use to generate energy. If you don't have ATP, you will die in 10 seconds. So that's the main element our muscles use. And the question is, how does it generate ATP? Now you might ask, how on earth does he talk about ATP now when we talk about winter training? Because it belongs together. And that's one of the main problems I see. Most of the training that is done in rowing is simply unprofessional. That might sound harsh, but to me it's a fact. If you know what your body needs in order to perform, you know how to prepare it. Now, if we are at peak of season, from now, it's December 1st, let's say June, July, August. So 7 to 9 months, your peak of season. What you want then is the following capability. This is the prime goal. In a 1 or 2K race, at 50% of the race, or just before 50% of the race, you still want to make sure that you are not far above the anaerobic threshold level, which is anywhere between 3 and 7 millimolar of lactate. Now you may ask, come on, I don't know what lactate is and I can't measure it. Don't worry. There are many ways to find out where you are without measuring lactate. My job is to understand, how it affects you, and therefore I can pretty precisely judge where you are. And the reason why we want to make sure that at around 50% of your race, you're still not too far above the anaerobic threshold level is a simple reason. Over the second part of the race, you will accumulate a lot of lactate. And there's only so much lactate you can accumulate in your body before your body simply either shuts down or reduces output, power output. And power is what we need over the race course. Now, you want to make sure that you can go as fast as possible over the first half of the race without accumulating too much lactate, because then for the second half of the race, you can give it all like a maniac and still not get into these high anaerobic threshold levels too early. It will still hurt. You will still be absolutely wasted at the end of the race, but you will be a lot faster. Now, how do we reach this goal? By making sure that you can pull a lot of watts without being in the anaerobic zone. Now, the anaerobic threshold level means the following thing, and I'm trying to keep it very simple here, guys. The anaerobic threshold level means that our muscles can still use a predominant amount of fat to generate ATP, which is the main source our body needs for that biochemical contraction. And once we go above the anaerobic threshold level, it's not using, amounts of fat that would be worth considering. So it's only using carbs. Well, you say, well, my muscle has enough carbs. That's right, there is enough carbs stored in your muscles. But the problem is that you're lacking two of the 3 energy recycle cycles. 3? Yes. The first one is the one that is always active. And the second and the third one, interestingly, reuse the lactate that occurs even in aerobic levels to produce ATP, which means lactate doesn't build up too much. There's never really a steady state. So lactate is built up with every contraction. It's simply a chemical byproduct of your muscle contraction, even in low aerobic zones. But in the second and third process, which takes time, this is why we call it endurance training. You use oxygen and lactate to regenerate ATP. So this is extremely effective, and this is why this is the classic endurance load. So basically what I'm aiming for is make sure that the first half of the race is endurance pace for you. But you've got to make sure that your endurance pace is so freaking high, excuse the wording, that you're fast with this. You can keep up with everybody before you start the afterburners. When you start the afterburners, you shouldn't be way past. You should be right with the pack, and then I want you to kill it. This is exactly how it works. All right. Now, let's get back to my bit of biochemistry lesson. So, once you are still in the aerobic threshold zones, you will use all 3 cycles, and you will be extremely energy efficient. And you have so endless supplies, and you can use all the oxygen you breathe in, transport it through, with the blood system to your muscles, and your muscles say, thanks for the oxygen, I can use it. Once you start to be in the anaerobic threshold, or above anaerobic threshold, oxygen reaches your muscle, and the muscle says, sorry, the last 2 cycles got shut down, we are too intense right now. Not enough time to use oxygen and lactate. Lactate, yeah, we store it somewhere in the muscle cells. Yeah, I know, everything turns acid now, it's a pain, but come on, this freaking idiot of my body is just, kicking it throughout the race. I hope this makes sense, guys. So the problem is not a lack of oxygen, the problem is not a lack of carbs, the problem is we need to educate our muscles that it uses oxygen and fat and carbs, a mix of that, for as long as possible. And then for the second half of the race, or maybe for the last 600 meters in a 1K or 1200 meters of a 2K race, we can build up lactate, accumulate lactate as much as you want, and you're going to be fast. Now, how do you achieve this? How do you achieve a high watt output still being aerobic, at aerobic threshold level? You have to structure endurance training. You have to do a lot of endurance training in the low areas, but don't keep it at the same level, structure it. Now, I'm giving away what I call the secret, because not many people are doing this. But I'm pretty sure I will say this, and still not a lot of people will do this. You gotta have variability within the low endurance zones, because you can never really know where you are. And if you do like 150 or 200 watts, eventually your lactate levels will go down, because lactate is being reused as long as you're still aerobic. So you have to play around a bit with this. And my athletes, now you guys understand why we have so many variations of just sub 2 millimole training, which is O, if you check the training plan. So, and then now December 1st, and now comes the point of that video. All December, January, February, we work a lot on playing around between 1 and 2, 1 and 3, 1 and 4 millimole. We always go back and teach the body, come back, draw your energy from 1 millimole. So we do like 4 millimole for 10 minutes and go back to 1 millimole. This is another secret. And the result is that you have a high watt output without accumulating too much lactate. It's as simple as that, guys. This is the secret to rowing. This is why people who I work with become fast. When I was lightweight, under 23, my anaerobic threshold level was 383 watts, and I really needed that. That's a lot for a lightweight athlete, and it is the minimum you need in order to be really fast. So the point is, the faster you want to go towards your peak of season, the more you want to work in high anaerobic levels. Now it comes one major effect. As we have a lot of aerobic base, we recover much quicker. Which means that towards spring, when we do a lot of high intensity training, and trust me, my athletes know that there is freaking intensive stuff on the schedule, you recover much quicker. You can handle more. You can handle more intensity loads than other people because you recover. Your body's trained to use all that lactate that accumulates in the muscle, and within the next training session, lactate is gone, you're fresh. And that's exactly the key. Now, what a lot of people do right now, teams, athletes, you train way too intense now, where peak of season is far away. Yeah, but I got this ERG test coming up. Who cares about an ERG test? Seriously. You want to kill it in the summer, not now. Now is the preparation time. Everything in life, everything works in waves. You have ups and downs. And right now is the low prep phase. It's not the high up phase. But if you force yourself always to be on a high, nothing is always on a high. Nothing, also not training. I hope this makes sense. All right? And now, if you do too much intensity training, which means we do a 1K full every week, we do a 2K full every week, what's that good for? Why? Well, during the week, we only do 90 minutes maximum watts. Okay, good. Okay, and then you do 2K in a weekend. Why? You didn't prepare for it. If you don't prepare for a 2K, why would you test a 2K? This is like I ask you to study French for 4 weeks. And then at the end of 4 weeks, I tell you, surprise, surprise, the exam is going to be in Spanish. And then I say, you didn't perform in Spanish. What's wrong with you? Because you studied French. So if you do endurance, you cannot ask yourself to perform well in a 2K. Well, some people still have improvements there and I need to check the performance. No, build them up. Don't check their performance. Yeah. I see so many, even in my small country. This is such a tiny country. You so few athletes where we are. And now they're coming up with this 2K full plus lactate, test every so many weeks to check the performance. Why? If you don't prepare for a 2K, why on earth would you do a 2K test? We got indoor championships coming up in January. And you have to perform. I know that some systems are still set up in a way where you have to perform all year round. You have to perform in January, in March, and da. It doesn't work this way. Rowing is not a sport, and this is a big misconception in my opinion. And this is why I started this entire RM training coaching thing, because I believe athletes need to be built up individually from point A to point B. And I do think that teams need a development monitoring coach. Somebody who has nothing else to do but take an athlete when he's junior, all the way until he drops out of the Olympic team because he wants to pursue a professional career or whatever. And take this athlete and say, how are you doing this week? How are you doing this week? Okay, your individual build-up is going well. No, the head coach of the boat, look, we need to pull John out of the team for 6 weeks. He needs a recovery. Otherwise, you can forget him in 3 months. This is not happening. And the same should be done with masters. Just because you're older, it does not mean you don't want to row high performance. There are a lot of masters who do high performance training. Sometimes it means 4 to 5 sessions a week. That's all you can do. Hey, but you have a lot of workload. You got a family to juggle, a business to juggle. It is a lot of load for the body. Don't forget that. So I think if you want to reach a high performance goal, you do need to have high performance structure for every goal you want to reach. I hope this video is logical for you guys. I hope it's clear. If you have any questions, drop me a question in the comments. Send me an email, info@rmtraining.com. Give me a call. My phone number is on the website. You can reach me anytime. I use Viber, I use Telegram, I use Signal, I use Threema. I don't use WhatsApp for good reason, but everything else. Contact us on Skype. If you have questions about this, if you want to start a program, if you just need help with something, contact me. For me, this is a passion project. I want to make sure that other people are not trapped in a way that I was trapped. Training 12 to 14 times a week and having good levels, but not getting anywhere because it was the wrong plan. It was not made for me. It was a one-size-fits-all plan. And I do not believe in one-size-fits-all. And one last side note to this. No matter how big a nation, I don't think, and please correct me if I'm wrong, it's just my perception. No matter how big the nation, there is no nation on earth that is so dominant throughout all levels, juniors, under 23, and senior A. Or you could say, okay, they are great in rowing because they have so many athletes they can draw from. No matter how many athletes you have, you can draw from. In order to make that absolute peak, you cannot do random training because one size fits all and we test every 4 weeks and the best we put in the boat and it's going to work. Interestingly, it doesn't. It does not work. So no matter how large the nation, how large the team, you can select as much as you want, you will not get the best athletes. You will not get the fastest boat, not on a consistent basis. Because rowing works in a different way. You cannot hope that your training plan will work for the others. You cannot guess that, it worked for the last 4 out of 20 athletes, so probably, they did the average percentage, and if we select these and that, it doesn't work. It's unprofessional. You want to have it professional. And I have a strong opinion about this. There are many things I'm not very opinionated about, but this is one major issue for me. All right, guys. With this, I wish you a very good December. I wish you a very good winter training. I hope you reach your targets. If you need help, contact me. And I'm looking forward to your comments and I'm looking forward to see you soon. All right, guys. Have a good day. Bye-bye.